guys, Chuck with Pocket Snakes. Today I'm going to use some Kevlar yarn, so very fine Kevlar yarn, and I'm going to take and spin it with my spinning tools into some crackers for a bullwhip. Got an order some crackers. So the first step is to wrap a cubit twice. Sorry, I bumped the camera. So you wrap a cubit twice, roughly, and cut. Let's see how fine the Kevlar yarn is. And you tie the two tails together. So you have a stop knot. And then this doubled loop goes on the hook. And I prefer to have my have the knot right where the spinning tool is. This is a piece of spring steel musical wire that I've bent. And I bent it into a hook for spinning. So you can see the shape of it when you spin it. And I'm going to spin this set of crackers to the left, fold it, and spin it back to the right. I know, super exciting, but you can use the same method to make cord for a necklace, or it's basically spinning twine, but they're twine crackers because there's two strands. In this case, there's two loops of Kevlar yarn, which means once you fold it, you have 8 strands of Kevlar. So this is a size 8 cracker, I call it. So this is the spinning crook. And that goes in the center. And you fold and set the hook. And then it wants to spin to the right, so we're going to spin it to the right. I tend to overspin these to the right. And this is a fairly tight lay cracker, they call it. And you cut off both loops. And then I set it on the joint of my finger and run it to the tip. That gives me about 2 inches of feather when you let go. And I take one yarn bundle from the right side feather, and I tie it around the stem as a half hitch. So that stops the feather from unraveling. I take one yarn from the other side of the feather and put a half hitch. So it gives you about a 9-inch cracker. Because my cubit wrapped is about 3 feet, so 18 inches of loop. And then you take the loop and you spin it, which shortens it. And then you fold it and spin it the other way, which kind of lengthens it and then shortens it again. Which you end up with a really pretty lay and a nice feather on the end. I'm putting this on a soda straw to keep the eye open. And I'm going to start the process over because I got a pack of 10 of these. So a doubled cubit loop. of Kevlar yarn. Tie the two ends together to make them a doubled loop. It's about 6 foot of Kevlar yarn or 2 meters of Kevlar yarn. Set it on the hook. Use a spinning loop. I'm spinning it to the left, so counterclockwise. And you want to spin it. You don't want it to form knots, but you want it spun fairly tight. Hello. Good to see you guys. Thank you for the like. I appreciate it. I'm live. This is Chuck with Pocket Snakes. I'm just spinning some Kevlar crackers out of Kevlar 36-pound or 40-pound Kevlar yarn. So I'm counter spinning it into twine. So there's 2 spun groups. And because there were 2 loops, there's 4 strands. And when you fold it, then there's 8 strands. So that makes this a size 8 Kevlar yarn spun cracker. You cut through the loops. And be careful with the fluff. You don't want anything to eat it. You want to make sure you throw that out. I use from the joint of my thumb to the tip of my thumb to be consistent to get a 2-inch feather. So I'm holding it in place. I'm going to grab one of the 4 yarns on the right. I'm going to fold it, tie a half hitch against the stem. So that's the smallest knot that'll lock the feather in place. And then break this apart and get 1 yarn from the other side. And put a second half hitch. So it's got 2 half hitches to keep it together. You end up with a very silky, no knot to bite you. So if it comes back and hits you, the knot isn't going to create a divot. Put it on a soda straw. I came up with this little crook to fit in the soda straw. And that's the design and shape. You can make your own tool out of, you can make the spinning tool and the hook and this tool out of like a coat hanger that you have laying around. This does not take any rocket science or fancy tools. I'm not going to make a set of 10 of these, so at least. I might make a couple 10 packs here because it's nice not to have to. This is just the fastest method I've found to bake consistent length crackers. I usually leave a couple inches on each side so that I can tie the stop knot. You can use the same technique to spin a necklace or a cord. I like to put the knot that I'm going to cut off right on this spinning hook. And this is about 18 inches with 2 loops, which is 4 strands. You fold it and double it, spinning it into twine basically. This is not the most glamorous job spinning crackers, but beginning to realize watching my own videos that stretching the leather makes my wall dirty. Should probably wash that. I don't see stuff until I do. This is the spinning crook, which holds the eye open. Fold it. and it wants to spin clockwise now. So force it to spin clockwise. Cut through the loops. Use your thumb as a measuring tool to get 2.5, 3-inch feathers, whatever. Try and make the feathers super consistent. I take one feather from the right piece of twine and half hitch it against the stem. I'll try and take one bundle of yarn, the Kevlar yarn. This is actually Dupont Kevlar yarn from a big spool. So it's brand name Kevlar. This makes a tight lay cracker that is a really strong, nice and loud cracker or popper for the end of your web. So now I've got 3. You can see how consistent, considering I'm making them one at a time by hand. They're pretty darn close. Spool 2 cubits, 2 cubit wraps, so a couple meters. Made into a loop that's doubled. One of the things about Kevlar is that you get one strand of it and it's literally like a spider web. So I've got one stray piece in here somewhere, which is funny. I mean, it makes invisible thread, right? I can't see it, and my eyes are pretty good. Take the 2 ends and tie them. Just tying a stop knot, nothing fancy. And if you are only hanging out with me for a few minutes, I appreciate your time. Thank you for coming and watching my channel. I try and just share what I do. I make whips and braid things and cut leather string, spin Kevlar crackers and other crackers. Try and share with you guys and read the comments when people make comments or stick stuff on the phone. But the camera's a little bit behind me, so I check it in between crackers and try and answer questions because I am live. I'm just going through my day doing stuff and thought other people might find it soothing. And relaxing, because I find spinning and braiding and beveling leather and all that, I find it pretty zen. You can just grab one bundle without more than one bundle. And tie a half hitch, which is basically an overhand knot against the stem. And then this bundle is the other bundle. Tie a half hitch against the stem. That makes the smallest knot I've found that will successfully hold the feather so it doesn't, the feather is all happy and fluffy and out there. And you can see the lay of the cracker. See if I can get a little more light in here. There's 4 crackers, all golden and shiny because they're Kevlar. Turn on my other light. Seems like I can never have enough light. So after you have a weird loose bit of Kevlar, you have to shuck it down to the end because this is a yarn. It's literally a yarn made of Kevlar. I want to say it's 20,000 kilometers or 200,000 kilometers of spooled Kevlar. It's started off as a 30-pound spool or 40-pound spool of this Kevlar yarn. Crazy big spool from an industrial place that made Kevlar fabric for bulletproof vests that moved out and left the Kevlar spools. And I had the good fortune of finding them or buying them. So just standardize the loops. Put your spinning hook where the knot is. We have a couple loose fibers. So if you have a couple loose fibers, stroke them to one end and start spinning and the fibers will settle down. Otherwise you'll have a really messed up cracker. What is your favorite football team? I kind of like watching Manchester United. And there's a few Irish teams I really like, but you guys are probably meaning American football. I don't really watch too much football. I'm more the type of person that watches Gugesh and Dane Larin play chess in the World Chess Championship that's going on this year. I watch that more than I watch football or soccer or any of that stuff. Not a sports fan exactly. Chess is my favorite sport. Sorry to disappoint. Like going out and having an experience going to a baseball or football stadium is more people than I want to be around on a given day. And going to a bar to actually enjoy watching a game probably is not probably the same thing, too many people. So, trying to pick apart a single feather so I can get one feather instead of 2. And it's not critical, I just try and be super consistent with what I do, everything I do, to make the most consistent things I can. I grab one feather from each side and tie a half hitch or a overhand knot, but it's a half hitch against the stem. It's nice if you're a stage performer, if you're throwing crackers and cutting things off that people are holding. There's no knot to really tear you up, so there's a very tight, very tiny bump, but it's not nearly a figure 8 knot or a overhand knot in the cracker that is going to poke holes. There's 5 crackers. You can kind of see how consistent those are. They're 9 inches or 9.5 inches long. It's a good length. Trying to get Kevlar is a whole thing. It's hard on scissors. Scalpel's one of the best things you can cut Kevlar yarn with, but I've dropped those on my toes trying to stay in frame and spin crackers before, and it hasn't stabbed me yet, but I switched to scissors. So I'm spinning these counterclockwise and then counter spinning them clockwise. And I'm pulling on the hook, and when it starts slipping back and not spinning easily is when I turn it back. I also count the number of rotations with my fingers, but that gets a little obsessive. Makes a nice balanced twine cracker. You got to cut through the loops so that the feathers can get released. Use the joint of your thumb to the tip of your thumb will give you a nice sized feather. I think I don't really measure anything except with my body or a set of calipers. I think I flicked that one too hard. Because it exploded into little fibers. Throw a little half hitch against the stem. And on this side, grab a bundle. It's not rocket science. It doesn't require the exact amount. I just try and be consistent with everything I do. It sounds weird, but this is like a 36 or 40 pound Kevlar yarn. And so there's 8 strands of this spun into twine. Just to give you an idea. Because there's 2 loops, which is 4 strands. And then it's spun and counter spun. So it doubles again to 8. If you have any questions, you can text. I will answer live if I can. In between spinning crackers, I always look at the screen, try and answer questions. Spinning's a really old art form. And I spin crackers differently than most people you will see, but part of it is I use a lot of different materials, and this is a way to make a super consistent, super clean cracker that behaves like I want. So that's the spinning crook. I came up with this so it holds the eye open for the soda straw. Turning it to the left, it won't work. It wants to turn to the right, because that's clockwise. You guys have any questions? Thank you for the likes. I appreciate them. Thank you for spending your time with me. Let's check with pocket snakes. Just sharing all the different oddball jobs that I do to prep for breeding and share some of the breeding work. Separate out one yarn, tie a half hitch against the stem, and take one yarn from the other side. That kind of locks it from unspinning in a weird way because it can't lose its tension. Makes a nice feather though, you know. Kevlar yarn you'll start to hate if you try doing this and you have any burrs on your fingers, because it'll catch every skin burr or every rough spot on your hands. And it'll just catch one or two fibers of the Kevlar, which this yarn has thousands of fibers in it. And they're thousands of kilometers long on the spool. Stop knot. This isn't the fastest process, but it's well worth it if you're wanting consistent crackers and strong crackers that'll last for a while on your whip. So if you want to change the pitch of your crack with your whip, the size of the feather out on the end of the cracker will change what the pitch of the crack is. So if you have a very short feather, you'll have a high-pitched, annoying crack. And the longer you go, it becomes a lower pitch. So if you have a 4-inch feather on the end of your whip, it's going to have a thumpy boom when it hits the end. If it cracks, at some point you get too much material to shove through the sound barrier. But it is useful to know that the length of the feather and the amount of material in the feather affect the pitch of the crack from your whip. It's easier to push a small feather through the sound barrier than a big one. One Kevlar yarn from here, tie a half hitch, it's the stem, and there's 4 strands here, one from the other feather with the other side, tie a half hitch. You can see how consistent these crackers come out. I'm just more or less eyeballing it. There's less than a 1/16 of an inch in most cases on these crackers, even though I'm not being super precise with the length. I try and leave a finger length on each side of the cubit wrap as a rough. Does 2 things. One, it's easier because they're sticking out, easier to tie the knot. for a stop knot. The more you handle the Kevlar yarn, the more it will try and fluff out or lose filaments instead of stay together. We're spinning Kevlar yarn into crackers here for bull whips or snake whips. I usually spin these crackers to order, so if you want, this is a size 8 cracker. It's a nice size for up to about a half-pound whip. But you can spin more or less. You can do 3 loops and you have 12 strands, and the diameter of the cracker is bigger and holds up better on a longer whip. I try and grab one of the yarns from each side of the spun cracker to lock off the rotation. And it's kind of a safety feature because the bump for that knot, let's see if I can show you where that knot is, tiny knot. That bump is really small compared to like an overhand knot or a figure 8 knot. And so if it comes back and hits you or hits the person holding a cigarette, it'll bounce off them instead of tearing a hole in their finger if you miss. By the way, don't miss. But you can build safety into your, as much safety as you can into the crackers. It's less stuff it lowers the risk slightly for doing performances. I'm starting to get the hang of keeping away from the camera a little bit so that my breathing isn't super loud. Hopefully it's helping. Camera's about a foot away from my head. We're spinning some Kevlar yarn crackers. Got to cut through the loops. Measure off the feather, let it spin to that. Grab a yarn, half hitch against the stem. Grab a feather, tie half hitch against the stem. Here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So that's a 10 pack of crackers right there. So here's how I package them up. to send them out. I'll snip off the straw. By the way, this is straw from Starbucks. So they're green and you hold out the crackers, which have the nice feathers. I toss an overhand knot. And that gives you a bundle of 10 crackers. This is a Kevlar yarn. It's about 40 pounds. And there's 2 loops, which gives you 4 strands. And you spin it. And then you fold it and counter spin it, which gives you 8 strands. So this is a size 8 cracker out of Kevlar yarn, because there's 8 strands in it. With high strength Kevlar yarn. It's great for fire whips, but also great on almost any whip. They do get dirty because they're a really beautiful yellow, but they quickly turn gray as they hit the ground and other things. You gotta cut through both sets of loops. Measure out a feather. Pull one yarn out. Tie half hitch against the stem. Pull one yarn out from the other side of the feather. And tie half hitch against the stem. It makes a really tiny knot. I don't know if you can see the knot. I'm wrapping 2 cubits, wrapping my cubit twice. From my fingertips to my elbow. Just to have a consistent loop size. So just to show you, it's just like, you got to cut all the way through all the fibers in the yarn. I could probably move the camera a little closer. I don't know if that's any better or worse. Somebody told me in the comments. Take the spinning crook. loops. Cut through both loops. Measure out the feather. Grab one yarn. Fold it through, create a half hitch. Grab a yarn from the other feather. Create a half hitch. Put it on the soda straw. So you can see it's a little variance in length. Part of that's how much spin I put into it. But they're about the most consistent crackers for spun crackers I can make. I'm always striving for perfection, which I will never achieve with any of this. And you can make these spinning tools out of a coat hanger wire. That's the shape. This happens to be, I heated up some musical wire because I like it to stay straight as I spin it. So I took extra time to heat form it out of spring steel, but you can use coat hanger wire. Thank you for the like, I appreciate that. Just spinning up some crackers. Cut through both loops. It's always fun cutting Kevlar. It's like, it's gonna chew through it. Measure off a feather. Try and get a bundle or a yarn. Tie a half hitch. Okay. Yarn from the other side of the feather. Tie a half hitch. That's about the smallest knot you can use to hold a cracker together. So. Somebody texted me. Nothing important. Okay. So, I can't turn my phone off because people call. And I really should mute the volume in my ear. I try and have it on Do Not Disturb more or less on my cell phone while I shoot these. But it doesn't always stay because you set a time period, and then if I've been working for a while, I need it to come back on once in a while. This is the shape of the crook that I'm using to hold the loop. You'll notice how narrow it is. That's so I can put the other hook in it. It just has a simple hook, and I'm setting it on my whip maker hook. And that allows this spinning hook to be caught and not spin once it's in there. It's a reason it's shaped that way. I just made it with a pair of Leatherman pliers or needle nose. Again, not rocket science. See, it holds that piece for me. You have to cut through both loops. Try and get one yarn from each feather and tie a half hitch against the stem. Will cease that feather and keep it from unwinding. It takes a long time to break off two half hitches, especially if they're spun Kevlar. 3, this is the 4th. Let's see how nice and consistent that is for length. Try to catch all my little hangnails, skin burrs. So I was beveling some deer skin yesterday. I tore my hands up. Oops. You have to remember to keep pulling on the hook while you're spinning. Keep tension on it. If it pulls it out of your fingers, you've probably gone too tight. Cut through the loops. The nice part with this process is out of 2 meters of string, that's the waste out of it for making the crackers. There's almost no waste with this method. Pull a feather from that half of the feather. Tie a half hitch. Take a feather out of the other side. And tie a half hitch against the stem. halfway through another 10 pack. There's 5 crackers. Probably not the most exciting thing I do, so, but it requires a lot of attention to the details to get these super consistent. And the Kevlar yarn is one of the most challenging materials I've ever spun crackers out of because it catches on everything. You can hear it. You can hear it catch on my skin, and it's these are a size 8 cracker, so there's 8 strands or 8 yarns in this cracker. So there's 2 loops that are spun, which is 4 strands, and then it's folded and counter spun into twine. So there's 5 here. I'm going to slide that group of 5 down and start a new group of 5 to get to 10. You can kind of see. It's kind of cool. Kevlar yarn spun into crackers is kind of pretty. It's kind of a nice golden color. Cut through both loops. this one from the first feather. This one from the second feather. See how shiny the crackers end up. One of the reasons I share what I do is if you want to spin Kevlar yarn into crackers or Dyneema yarn into crackers or whatever, this is the best method for keeping the yarn together that I've ever found. There's no loose ends, and you don't, because you tie the two ends together. It's one of the most efficient ways to hand spin beautiful spun crackers. Oh, thank you for the likes. I appreciate you guys. If you have any questions, I'll try and answer live if you ask questions. I'm just sitting here spinning crackers because I had to make a couple 10 packs to ship out. I think this thing of crackers is going to someplace in Germany. It's amazing how that works. People in Germany will order something from me, little me in the middle of nowhere, and in the U.S. I'll ship them a little pack of crackers for their circus show. Got to remember to get 2 half hitches, one from each side. I tell people, I show people how I do things. You may find a better way, but try my method, see what you think. It's a fun way to experiment and see how different people do things. I usually have to come up with my own method of doing stuff because I have nobody to teach me, and I can't just sit and watch other people's YouTube videos because I don't have time. I got other stuff. I have to make stuff and build whips and cut leather. This is a method I came up with about 10 years ago for spinning crackers, probably closer to 14 years, 15 years ago now, to spin crackers that resulted in very nice crackers. I started spinning these in actual silk, and I used embroidery thread, which is not that dissimilar from Kevlar yarn. Made a really shiny, pretty silk cracker that people loved. And then my source for that particular brand of silk embroidery dried up. It was out of India, and they were selling, I think, on eBay. And there's other sources, but I ended up buying 3 or 4 giant spools of this Kevlar. And the Kevlar is very like the silk. It's very silky. It's supposed to be an aramid, like an artificial spider silk. It's super strong. It was invented in the 60s, I believe. And this is Dupont Kevlar, so it's a brand name Kevlar yarn. Not that they'd want to have anything to do with little old me spinning it into crackers, because they sold it to the company that I got the spool of yarn from to make bulletproof vest fabric. They had a weaving machine in, I think it was New Jersey, and they were spinning fabric out of this yarn. So now I got 4 and 5. Let me get an idea as to how that is. And one more and I'll have 10. This whole process is critical. You keep the tension on everything as you spin it and counter spin it. It's a bit of an art more than a science. It's even hard to describe, but I try my best to describe what I'm doing and help others if they want to. This skill is not just for making whip crackers. You can use these same tools to make your own twine for really pretty necklaces, and make twine to make all sorts of things. But if you want really strong cord, it's pretty hard to beat a Kevlar yarn cord, hand spun, both in how pretty it is and in how strong it is, because 8 strands at 40 pounds it's probably close to 300 pounds strength or more. It's much stronger as a spun thing than as a yarn thing. Double check 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. See, they're pretty consistent. It helps them stay in a package and together. Soda straw helps keep the eyes open so they don't spin closed. So if you have falls on your whip, you can actually slide this tube onto the falls and pull one cracker onto it and fold it up through and tie your knot. Does anybody have any cool questions to ask? because I can keep spinning stuff. I don't have to keep spinning, but because I've got my 2 orders, I usually spin them to order, like I said. I'll try and answer live. People have questions. Cut through both loops. Grab a feather for one. Tie half hitch. Grab a feather from the other. Tie half hitch. Loops. Mesh with the feather. Grab a yarn. Put a half hitch against the stem. Tie a half hitch against the stem. feather. Bundle. Put a half hitch against the stem. Bundle. Or a half hitch against the stem. See if you guys have typed any questions. Grab one feather from each side and tie a half hitch. It'll hold the feather, and it creates a much smaller knot. That see if I can bring it up where you can see it. Really tiny knot in the cracker that if it hits yourself or hits the person that's holding a target on the stage, it won't bite them as much. It won't tear them up like a big knot. It's my addition to a little bit of safety to people that are doing stage performer stuff. Or people that just want to make sure that if they whack themselves with a whip, that it doesn't tear a hole. Trying to add a little bit of safety in an unsafe thing. There's no way to be safe. It's a risky thing, throwing whips. But you can mitigate some of the risk with some thoughtfulness. Spinning some crackers. Thank you guys for the likes. Thank you guys for joining me as I have to spin crackers today anyway. So, stream I've spun 20 so far, give you some ideas how long it takes. For 25, this is my 25th. These are spun out of a Dupont Kevlar yarn. It was surplus from a factory that was weaving bulletproof fabric out of Kevlar yarn. And I'm using it to spin crackers because I was fortunate enough to find it. It's very hard to buy it, especially in a fairly small quantity as a Kevlar yarn. It just, nobody really has. They have spun thread. You can use Kevlar thread to spin crackers, but this is actually Kevlar yarn. A couple half hitches. I tend to make these like 10 packs, and every time I get to 5, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I slide them down, and then I'll put another 5, and then I put them together and make a bundle of 10 to ship out. I wrap a couple of cubits, a couple meters of lace there, or yarn. This method produces very, very little waste and is somewhat time efficient. Like anything good, it takes time and attention to detail. I think the attention to detail matters more. To cut the 2 loops. Measure off a feather. Take a yarn. Tie a half hitch. Take a yarn from the other side. Tie another half hitch. feather. Grab a yarn, tie half hitch. Grab a yarn from the other side, half hitch against the stem. Measure up a feather. Grab a yarn, tie half hitch against the stem. A yarn from the other side, tie half hitch against the stem. grab a yarn, tie a half hitch against the stem, grab a yarn from the other side. Oops, it's not a whole yarn. There's the yarn. Half hitch against the stem. There's 4 and 5. That's 9. I need one more to make a 10 pack. There's your feather. There's 5 and 5, so we shove those together. There's 10 pack of crackers. There's 30 Kevlar crackers that are hand spun. Those are size 8 crackers. They're good for most whips. They have a 2.5, 3-inch feather on them. If you want a pack of crackers, uh, check out pocketsnakes.com. You can order packages of crackers. I call them Snapdragon spun crackers, but these are Kevlar. So thanks a lot. This is Chuck with Pocket Snakes. Thank you for hanging out with me, and I'm gonna move on to other projects now that I've made the crackers that I have to for the day. Check me out. Give me a like, a share. You know what they can be too? You can't be too safe. Yeah, that's my thought process exactly. Like, you try and build in as much safety and thought process as you can into things. You can never make it completely safe, but walking across the street is never completely safe either, even when there's nobody visible. I appreciate you, Ian. Thank you for the subscribe the other day. It's good to see you, by the way. I'm sorry if I didn't catch you while you're on, because I can't see exactly who's on. But I will probably be back live here in a little bit. I need to start doing some braiding with stuff, and I just had to make crackers because people kept asking. I'm going to add this to my spinning crackers playlist on the Pocket Snakes channel, even though it was live. Looks like it took me an hour and 30 minutes. So a pack of 10 crackers takes me half an hour or more to spin. So people sometimes wonder why are crackers expensive. They're a bit of a pain to spin, and I show how to do it yourself, so you don't have to. You don't have to buy them, and you can spin almost any material into a cracker for a whip. But nylons are okay. Kevlar is beautiful. Dacron is a little weaker, which is and like polyester is kind of wimpy and breaks apart. Bonded nylon's okay, I should say. Regular nylon will break down pretty quick. But I like Kevlar and the aramids for spinning. And you can use spun thread and spin it into a bigger cracker. Anyway, again, this is Chuck with Pocket Snakes. Keep an eye out. Please subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. And I'll be back live. I kick this on whenever I'm doing something that might be of interest to people. And they can watch me as I have to work anyway. I have to make crackers in this case. You can go back and watch this video from the beginning if you want on how to build yourself a 10-pack of Kevlar crackers. So, thanks a lot. You guys have a great day.